Hello people, everybody, welcome back to Lesh. So today we are going to be looking into a conspiracy. You can't convince me that this isn't a conspiracy. Okay, something is awry, something is afoot. But I'm not gonna lie to you. I've done hours of research and I don't have the answers as to what happened here. So what am I talking about? Who is Peter Schickele? He is a 4-time Grammy Award winner for Comedy Album of the Year. Okay, so if we start by looking at Grammy Award winners for Comedy Album of the Year. Simple enough. Comedy Album of the Year, Grammy Award winners. It goes back to 1959. And you'll notice here, actually, I just noticed this in the opening, Peter Schickele of PDQ Bach fame is runner-up with 4 wins between 1990 and 1993. Who is Peter Schickele and what is PDQ Bach? That's what this video is today. Because why is he a Grammy winner? Because if we look at all of the years, okay, so these guys are old. Like, we haven't heard of these people, but you've heard of some of them. Andy Griffith, you've heard of. Jonathan Winters, I feel like I've heard of. Alan Sherman, I've heard of. Bill Cosby. He should be famous or something like that, this Bill Cosby guy. Lily Tomlin, who I've heard of. George Carlin won. Cheech and Chong, Richard Pryor. My point I'm saying here, you've heard of everybody on this list. They're all like household names, okay? And then we get to 1990. Peter Schickele. He's beating Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, Jonathan Winters, George Carlin. He's beating George Carlin for Comedy Album of the Year. 4-time in a row Comedy Grammy of the Year award winner. Best Comedy Album. So who is Peter Schickele and how did this happen? That's our question for today, folks.
This ain't what you want. Project. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want.
Peter Schickele is actually a Juilliard-trained composer. Okay? A Juilliard-trained composer. He writes symphonies and stuff like that. One of those guys. He's from North Dakota. Done more than 100 works for symphony orchestras, choral groups, chamber ensembles. He's a musician. He's a good friend of Philip Glass. Okay? That's who we're talking about. A Juilliard-trained musician. So, to me, right, this asks more questions than it answers, for sure, right? A Juilliard-trained musician. How did he win 4 Grammys in a row for Comedy Album of the Year? So, I think the next thing that makes sense to do is just to look at some of his comedy, right? So this is him on Carson or something. But this is, let's see, this is the 4-time Grammy-winning performance.
You have to listen to this introduction closely. It'll give you some idea of what Mr. Schickele is about. He is the head of the Department of Musical Pathology at the University of Southern North Dakota at Hoople. He's an authority on the music of PDQ Bach, who is the 21st of Johann Sebastian Bach's 20 children.
Okay, so this is the other thing. Pretty confusing. It took me a while to pin this down exactly. But so basically what's happening is right now he is introducing a fake person. Okay, he is introducing the character that does PDQ Bach, which is the act that it won the Grammys. Okay, so he's introducing Peter Schickele, who is the composer. He's introducing him as a professor of something or another at the University of Northern South Dakota or something like that. And so it's like it's very confusing. He's not actually a professor though. This guy's not a professor. He's just a composer. Although I think you're going to see, I don't know why he's not. If as a 5-time Grammy, or as a 4 or 5-time Grammy winner, because he's actually won 5 Grammys, but as a 4-time Grammy winner, I don't know why you wouldn't leverage that into getting a professorship wherever the hell you want, but he does not do that. He does not flaunt that he has 4 Grammys ever. It's very strange. Because if I had 4 Grammys, you guys would know about it. I'd mention it all the time. It'd be every other thing out of my mouth would be about how I've won a Grammy, right? And this guy's won 4 of them, and he doesn't seem to talk about it. It's very odd. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit and have this guy reintroduce.
Would you welcome Professor Peter Schickele?
I'm going to be playing a work by PDQ Bach.
So this is him. He's not a professor. He was just introduced as a professor. He's not a professor. He is just a composer, right? This is the kind of comedy, though, that we're dealing with, guys. We're going to get into it more, but, like, the fact that he's the 21st of 20 children is, like, that's kind of as deep as the bits get here, which makes it, it makes it so much stranger that it beat Kinnison and Andrew Dice Clay and George Carlin. You know what I mean? So that's what brings us here today. And because nobody has ever heard of this guy. Like, no, have you heard of Peter Schickele? I haven't heard of Peter Schickele. And yeah, he's a 4-time Grammy. Let's see what he's got.
With the orchestra here, but we didn't plan this, but I would like to do something a little different. You know, a lot of people say that the reason I always play with the orchestra is because I'm not a very good pianist, and if I played alone, everybody would know that. I'd like to play, if I could, I'd just like to play a solo piano piece, a piece that everybody knows. It's Johann Sebastian Bach, the Prelude in C major from the Well-Tempered Clavier.
So a normal. I don't know why he's on a late night show, but a normal composer doing composer things, right?
Hey! What is?
Okay, so now the joke here, guys, is that he's supposed to be doing a piano solo, but the band keeps chiming in and playing. Okay, get it? You get the bit?
That's better. Get a little informal here. The next work is by Johann Sebastian Bach's son, PDQ Bach. This is
This is the famed PDQ Bach, right?
excerpt from a very large, not to say gross work, for piano and orchestra called Variations on an Unusually Simple-Minded Theme.
Okay, and something that you'll notice there is, like, because I don't know, some people laughed. The audience seems to be mostly just kind of bewildered, right? They don't seem to be, they don't seem to be enjoying it necessarily. They don't seem upset, but they don't seem entertained, right? It's so the audience is kind of bewildered, I would describe them. And I don't know what that was funny there, but this is another thing that I wanted to point out, is that this is a Grammy is for, like, a recording, right? As in audio. And he just did, like, a physical bit there, right? So, like, how is he? I don't know how he's winning, like, audio awards when the only bit he's done in the last minute is a physical bit, and it's a bunch of classical music in between, which, like, this is not this is up against George Carlin and losing, you guys. George Carlin lost to this guy. Let's let that sink in. What is happening here? He's touching his nose to the keyboard. These are physical, like, people are laughing because it's the nose to the keyboard. But over an audio album, that doesn't translate at all. Nobody knows you did that. So why is this winning awards? Aren't you guys just confused? I'm just confused. I'm just confused, right? Like... Nobody's laughing. Just bewildering. It's just very confusing. Nobody's laughing, really. It's not clear what's happening. Now he's doing an ab workout. And like, this is, it's a comedy album, right? Is this not confusing?
Professor?
People are clapping because like they don't know what else. They're like, I think that was supposed to be good. You know what I mean? So let's see the interview with him.
The audience is a little bit bewildered, Professor.
The audience seems to be mostly just kind of bewildered, right?
So am I.
Yes, all right. We'll come back and try to sort that out in just a second. Right after this, I noticed a little look of puzzlement on the audience's face.
So again, another thing to remember here is he's calling him professor. He's not a professor. His character, his onstage character right now is the professor. Okay, he is not himself a professor. It's very strange.
Apparently, they are not familiar with PDQ Bach as much as you are. I have not been able to find him in any musical dictionaries at all.
No, I know. My research is into PDQ Bach is a very lonely affair.
I bet it is.
I've been kicked out of the AMJ, the American Musicological Junta. They refuse to have anything to do with me. But I must say that the researchers have sort of gained me a certain niche, because if you study Beethoven and Mozart, are hundreds of other people studying those composers,
Right. So
but nobody else
all
is studying
yourself.
PDQ Bach. I really pretty got it to myself.
When did you first discover that there was a PDQ Bach?
Well, I was traveling in...
See, this is the thing. It's like you have to be. It's these weird music jokes where you have to be in on the know to understand like what he's even talking about in the first place. You know what I'm saying? It's really not super clear. It's not clear to anybody that this isn't real. You know what I mean? Like, the audience probably thinks that this is real, which is like strange. And like, I get that it's known to be a comedy album, but it's like, you know, PDQ Bach is not a real person. I don't know if that's clear.
So ever since then, I've discovered over 75 works by PDQ Bach, and
You mentioned just one or two of them that we might have.
Well, yes, there's a dramatic oratorio called Oedipus Tex.
Oedipus Tex?
Yes, that's a story about a gunslinger who shoots a man who turns out to be his father and marries a lady who turns out to be his mother. That's not the path to happiness.
It's a nasty affair, yeah.
Yeah. There's also a charming little piece called The Fanfare for the Common Cold.
See, so Fanfare for the Common Cold, I think, is like a play on Fanfare for the Common Man, I think maybe it's called, which is an opera. Okay. But again, that's not, like, you have to know classical music you would have to know classical music to know that. You know what I mean? And so it's not really clear who this album is for, like, these albums are for. Okay, so the next thing I want to do real quick is we're gonna take a look at his Spotify, because I think from there we'll see that something that isn't making sense, right? He has 5,000 monthly listeners, okay, with 10,000, 15,000 plays on them, on these recordings. And this is all of his, like, he's got a lot of stuff, because as you saw in that interview, basically he just writes stuff and then says it's found PDQ Bach. You know what I mean? So he just, whatever he writes is like in this character. He's like a prolific artist. We're going to get into that. But like, look at this, 5,000 monthly listeners. If we go to George Carlin, he's got, okay, 13,000. Actually, I thought it'd be more. I thought he would have significantly less than. See, okay, at least some of Kinnison stuff has like near 1 million plays though. Some of this PDQ Bach stuff has like 0 play. This is weird though. What is Andrew Dice Clay? Andrew Dice Clay has to be a lot, right? 2,500. Okay, they did something to comedy on Spotify, because this isn't right. Those were massive albums at the time. Well, I guess that doesn't really go towards my argument, but still, you know, some of these Grammy winners are like, they're kind of like makeup calls for some people are winning comedy album of the year who just should have won a Grammy at some point and didn't yet, and that's why they like, that's what the deal with like Whoopi Goldberg is. Like, she was better earlier, but yeah, I mean, that's a side point. Another thing I wanted to add is like, okay, I could understand a possibility where, you know, the Grammys said they wanted to go a different direction one year, so somebody like alternative won it, and that's how Peter Schickele won it. But 4 times in a row is weird. 4 times in a row is really, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, and also you've never heard about it. How strange, like, I feel like, is it coming across to you how strange this is to me? Because this is weird. Everybody else you've heard of on that list, you've heard of everybody. Cheech and Chong, Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison. You've heard of everybody. George Carlin. You've heard of everybody. And then we have Peter Schickele with PDQ Bach 4 years in a row. So from his Wikipedia article, I got a couple quotes from the Wikipedia article on PDQ Bach. Okay, I just want to tell you how it describes itself. That seems like a place to start, right? We've seen it now. We have seen PDQ Bach, and it's not really clear to any of us what the hell it is we're watching. Okay, so let's let him describe it, right? Let's try that approach. Maybe see if he can say something for it. Says, the humor in PDQ Bach music often derives from violation of audience expectations, such as repeating a tune more than the usual number of times, resolving a musical chord later than usual, or not at all, unusual key changes, excessive dissonance, or sudden switches from high art to low art. This sounds hilarious, doesn't it? And then it says, PDQ Bach, quote, possess all the originality of Johann Christian, the arrogance of Carl Philipp Emanuel, and the obscurity of Johann Christoph Friedrich. Okay, end quote. That's the sentence. PDQ Bach possess the originality of this person, the arrogance of this person, and the obscurity of this person. All 3 of those people, this is weird, all 3 of those people, Johann Christian, Johann Christoph Friedrich, and Carl Philipp Emanuel, all 3 of those are Bach's other children, okay? So to understand this sentence that is like whimsically thrown out there, you would have to like know who you have to know like a strong history of the Bach family and who all of Bach's kids are, and like how this one possesses originality and this one possesses arrogance and then this one is obscure. Like, just, you have to be a complete like classical music nerd to even understand what the hell that sentence says, right? Like, I don't know if I know anybody who would know what that sentence was. It was like, oh yeah, no, I get what that means. Like, you have to really know, like, you know what I mean? Like, comparisons like that are hard to make anyway, and then like you're gonna make 3 of them to 3 people that nobody's ever heard. It's weird, you know. And the thing is, it's probably a well thought out joke, but it's just so like esoteric that like there are tens of people in the world who would understand that joke. You know what I mean? Like, it's nonsensical, and I get that it's supposed to be nonsensical, right? And like, you know, oh, it's comedy, Adam, like, don't take it so literally. I understand that, but at the same time, I can say something's not funny, right? Because it's not a good joke. It's not a bad joke because I don't get the joke. It's a bad joke because, like, it's just, there's nothing, you've just thrown words together. It's not very clever. You know what I mean? It really seems like this was made as, like, an inside joke for, like, because he went to Juilliard, and, like, he's friends with Philip Glass, who went to Juilliard. Like, they went to Juilliard at the same time. He's doing, like, PDQ Bach has made, like, Philip Glass spin-off songs, song parodies of Philip Glass. Who is his friend, right? So Philip Glass and Peter Schickele are friends. So it's like an inside joke kind of thing. It's not a 4-time Grammy award-winning performance kind of thing. It's like, okay, because some Grammys are like deserving and some are makeup calls for, I don't even know what this is. Like, I don't even know what this is. It doesn't make any sense. It's and I'll show you on his Twitter here. It's not, nowhere on his Twitter does it say that even this, it does not say anywhere that he is a 4-time Grammy award winner. He also died, at some point this year. So rest in peace to Peter Schickele. But the answers to this question kind of died with him, you guys. They kind of died with him because now, okay, it would have made sense. It would have made more sense if in the late 90s, early 2000s, Peter Schickele came forward and was like, hey, this is how you win a Grammy. It's really easy. I knew the right people. My material didn't even have to be that good. Like, if he just wanted to win the Grammys to have the Grammys, then like that would be one thing. He doesn't advertise that he's won Grammys. He doesn't leverage that he's won Grammys at all. Like I said, like if I had won Grammys, I would be using that to get I would be using that to get people to give me money, like just hard cash, like one of those people lying about being a Saudi Arabian prince. I would just lie about I would just lie about different things that I'm doing as a Grammy winner I would be a swindler. No, I'm kidding. But what I'm saying is if I won a Grammy, people would know about it. And he's not, it's like this whole bit is like dog whistling for something. Because like some people must have understood like what was funny about it, but like who and why and what did they see, right? And so the next thing we're going to look at is like, how do you win a Grammy, okay? Because that's a logical question to ask. But as you're going to see, it doesn't really get us any further doesn't really tell us anything that we can't already piece together. He's a classical composer who released these kind of classical joke comedy albums and won 4 years in a row. It's like Bach, but it's a silly version of Bach. And I don't know how a silly version of Bach won one Grammy. And we're talking about 4 Grammys, guys. 4 Grammys. 4 Grammy wins for PDQ Bach. At least the other nominations were for real people. This is for a character playing a character, okay? Because again, he's a person playing a professor who is a music historian an expert on the works of PDQ Bach, who again doesn't exist. Okay, I feel like you really have to know what it's hard to even wrap your head around what the bit, it's been hard for me at least to even wrap my head around what the bit is, let alone why is it funny? Why is this something that anybody cared about? And then why is this winning 4 Grammys? 4 Grammys. One thing I will, okay, then we'll get into how to win a Grammy. But one thing I will give Peter Schickele credit for is as PDQ Bach, he released a lot of different things. Look at, he really put out a lot of recordings. This is also all PDQ Bach. He put all this out. He did, because that's one thing you could say about comedians is oh well they're a good comedian but they don't have comedy. Some comedians just don't have that much comedy. They don't have that much material. And so how many awards can you win without much material? But this guy, I will say he had a lot of material here. I just don't know if it was good or why it was good. You know what I mean? And that's the strange part about it. So, one thing I will show you, I did find when I was doing research for this video, is he did win I found him winning the Grammy at the Grammys, but I did this to make sure that there was no Mandela effects afoot, but there is not, because as you'll see here, it's pretty much just, he doesn't get presented. It's nothing, like, there's nothing in this Grammy is out of ordinary in any way. There's nothing that stands out. It's almost weird how normal it is.
Best Comedy Recording, PDQ Bach, 1712 Overture and Other Musical Assaults, Professor Peter Schickley. Best Spoken Word or Non-Musical.
Nobody knows anything. It's just, it's there and then it's gone. It's not like, you know what I mean? It goes right over everybody's heads. Nobody's heard of it. People are clapping the clap, and it's strange. Is this weird? Is this not weird to anybody else? But like I said, there's no Mandela effect here. I just don't know. But again, it leaves you with more of the same questions. Just why did this happen in the first place? And how did nobody notice? Like, how did nobody notice this at the time and say this was weird as it was happening? You know what I mean? And again, and also that Grammy thing, again, said he was a professor. He's not a professor. His character is a professor, which I still think is just, it's just weird, you guys. It's just weird. Like, I feel like you guys understand that it's weird by now, right? Like, and I do have one theory that I haven't fully investigated yet. I do have a conspiracy in my head for where this might lead, right? I think the answer is that, like, it was for all, like, by definition, a conspiracy. A plan by a group to do something. It is a conspiracy. An agreement to commit a wrong act or an act which becomes unlawful as a result of the secret agreement. So that seems like what this seems like a conspiracy. This seems like, I mean, two people were conspired, like there was more than one person conspired, grouped together to agree that Peter Schickley should win a Grammy, right? 4 years. And then so I could see them agreeing 1 year to, like, go in a different direction. But then it became 4 years in a row. And again, he has not used this to his advantage in any way. But I don't know how you win 4 Grammys without anybody noticing. Like, anybody noticing. I asked my dad. My dad's never heard of it. My dad knows everybody else on that list of the people who lost to him, all the other winners. And I always think it's really arrogant when people say, like, oh, I've never heard of somebody. As if having never heard somebody says something bad about that person. Because that implies that you know everybody that there is to know and, like, should be known. And it's like a very small, like, oh, well, I've never heard of them. It's like, who have you heard of? Like, other than Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Who have you heard, like... Why are you the authoritative figure on? It's not just that I've never heard of this guy and my dad's never heard of this guy, and, like, I don't know anybody in real. I heard about this on a podcast, on Ari Shaffir's Skeptic Tank podcast, and Ari has been a comedian for like 25 years now, and he had another comedian on his podcast who's a comedy nerd. Neither of these people have ever heard of Peter Schickley, and so it's like, it's not just that I've never heard of him. It's like, who has heard of him? You know, this is like LMAX not knowing who somebody in the Call of Duty space is. LMAX knows every person in the Call of Duty space, either well or he knows about them and of them, and, like, he knows. I feel like if he doesn't know you, he knows your deal at least. LMAX he's got his fingers in all the pies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. But these are experts who haven't heard of him. Like I said, it's literally like LMAX not knowing of somebody in the Call of Duty space. Like, every time I think I haven't heard of a Call of Duty player before, LMAX is like, no, yeah, I've known them for a decade. And it's like, right, of course. And so this is like, you know, Ari Shaffir not knowing who the hell this guy is like LMAX not knowing in somebody in Call of Duty who has won like 4 montage awards or something like that. All right, I need to stop talking about Call of Duty videos now. But it's seriously weird that nobody's ever heard of this guy. It's not just that I haven't heard of him. It's that, like, I know you comment if you have heard of Peter Schickley before, because you have not heard of Peter Schickley. You have not. Okay, so let's talk about real quick how to win a Grammy. So the process begins with members and record companies submitting entries, which are then screened for eligibility and category placement. The Academy's voting members, all involved in the creative and technical processes of recording, then participate in 1, the nominating process that determines the 5 finalists in each category, 2, determines which are the Grammy winners. Okay, so submission by Academy members and record companies. So we're going to touch on that in a minute, but that's who submits. So Academy members submit. Okay. Nominating. First round ballots are sent to voting members in good dues standing. Okay, so people are directed to only vote in their area of expertise. They come across up to 3 genre fields and 6 categories. And then in craft categories, final nominations are determined by committees comprised of voting members from all of the Academy's chapter cities who are actively working in the craft they are judging. Okay, and then the ballots are tabulated by an independent accounting firm. After tabulation, they're announced at the ceremonies. So, like, we get how it's a committee. People are selected by a committee. Okay. And then you can be a voting member or a professional. Because I was like, okay, so who's the committee? Who are the members? And how do you become a member? And basically you just need to have like credentials of your own, 12 commercially distributed credits. You have to have like stuff published to be on the Grammy. You need 2 strong recommendations from industry peers and, a profile of yourself for why you should be considered. So again, that doesn't give us any more answers. That gives us more questions of like, who are these people? Because it's not really clear who the hell these people are who are voting for these things. But some people must have voted for Peter Schickele, which means that some people must have understood Peter Schickele and thought that PDQ Bach was great. And like, why? Like, I just don't understand why. You know what I mean? And so one last thing we'll look at here that is odd. I guess something to end on here. Well, there are a couple things. This is on Peter Schickele's website. This is the bio for PDQ Bach. I just wanted to talk about this because this is okay. So Peter Schickele died, so his website's taken down. So we're on the Wayback Machine, and I just wanted to show you. This is the kind of world building that was done, because I say this to say it wasn't very much world building at all. And again, it seems like a kind of whimsical, half-assed attempt to put something out, but almost to I would never have released this unless I knew it was going to win a Grammy. You know what I mean? Because otherwise it'd be like, this is stupid, right? Anyway, we'll just read. So there was a rumor that PDQ Bach, without a doubt, was Sebastian's last and least offspring. And then this is the goofiness. It's like the date on the grave was inscribed 1807 and 1742. It's backwards. Get it? Because it's silly. It said that his father gave him no music training whatsoever. He avoided music as much as possible until he was in his 30s. And then this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. As a teenager, he did assist in the construction of the loudest instrument ever created, the pandemonium. But he wisely skipped town before the instrument's completion, having sensed with uncanny accuracy that the Pavilion of Glass was perhaps the most felicitous location for the inaugural concert. Okay, so see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, he lives in a world where they would have the loudest instrument in the House of Glass, and so obviously the glass is going to explode, and get it? That's the joke. That's the bit. Isn't this weird? Isn't this weird? Why is this beating Andrew Dice Clay? Why is this beating George Carlin? If you haven't heard of Andrew Dice Clay and Sam Kinison, you've at least heard of George Carlin, right? Everybody else you've heard of. Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, Rodney Dangerfield, and then Peter Schickele. It's wild. He did win another Grammy in 1999 for Best Classical Crossover Album, which I don't know. I have no idea. But 4-time Comedy Grammy Award winner, you guys. It makes no sense. I heard on the podcast that somebody had tried reaching out to him, tried reaching out to his son. They didn't really, they were unresponsive. This is just going to remain a mystery, a comedy conspiracy, because there aren't really many comedy conspiracies out there. But what else would you call this besides a conspiracy? 2 people at least had to group together. Multiple people had to vote. He had to be voted multiple years. He must have known the people voting, right? It just doesn't make sense. Because one thing I did read with the Grammys is you have to vote for somebody who is one of your peers. So if there were a bunch of music people voting, it would make sense, right, that Peter Schickele is the only musical peer that they have, because the rest of the peers, the rest of the nominees are comedians, right? That could make sense. But all of the rest of the years make perfect sense. It's Robin Williams, it's George Carlin, it's Whoopi Goldberg, it's Weird Al Yankovic. It's like, not that Weird Al is good, but it at least makes sense as a bit. This doesn't make sense as a bit. It's like, you have to know you have to be such a classical music nerd to know even what's happening at all. You know what I mean? Like, at all. And so it's baffling. It's puzzling, you guys. And I don't know, like I said, I don't really know if there's an answer to this question. The one thing that is strange that I will say is that one thing that I noticed that is weird, all of his, look at him, he's releasing an album like a year, right, for like 3 years in a row, took a little break, but then he's back on like almost an album a year. He's with Vanguard Records at this point. He takes a break, and then he's on Telarc Records. And as soon as he's on Telarc Records, he wins 4 in a row. So I don't know what Telarc is. I guess this will be the last thing we look into here. No, it's just a symphony orchestra. It looks like it's just a symphony orchestra record company. Somebody's 1812, like this 1812 overture, whatever. Okay, apparently they did that, and then he did. See, PDQ Bach did 1712 overture. So get it? Because this is the kind of world building that we're doing with PDQ Bach here. Oedipus Tax and Other Choral Calamities, WTWP, Classical Talkity Talk Radio, and then Music for an Awful Lot of Winds and Percussion. Those are the album names that won the Grammys, you guys. Those top 4 there on Telarc. And I think it will forever remain a mystery how this happened. Clearly, like, there's something going on with how the Grammys are decided. It has to be, like, this is something set. It's not fake, right? But like something's at least awry. There's not much, there's not really a ton of conclusion to draw. You know what I mean? Which is what makes this such an interesting thing. I don't know. If you guys have any theories, let me know. But for now, this will remain maybe the biggest conspiracy in the history of comedy. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe to see, let's see what I put together next, you guys. You know what I mean? I did some math things. Now we're doing this. Who knows where we'll go next? But yeah, stay tuned, you guys. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'll see you next week with another video. Thank you very much. Thanks. Talk to you later. Love you. Bye.